The night Monica Harris was killed, the rain hadn't stopped for hours. Drops tapped against the window of her small apartment, almost like a warning she couldn't hear. Monica was only 21, a nursing student with a laugh that could light up any room, the type of daughter who made her mother proud with every step she took. But that night, something dark followed her home. When police found her the next morning, she was lying in the kitchen, her textbooks scattered across the floor as if they had tried to shield her from the violence. A single set of muddy footprints led in and out of the back door. Nothing was stolen. This wasn't a robbery. This was personal. The community was shaken. Monica wasn't involved in gangs, drugs, or anything reckless. She was the girl who stayed late to help neighbors, the one who volunteered at the local clinic, the one who told her little brother that life was bigger than this city. Now she was gone. At the Harris family home, her mother sat on the couch clutching a photo of Monica in her nursing scrubs, tears running down her face. The house was full of relatives, pastors, and neighbors, but it felt unbearably empty without Monica's voice. Reporters outside shouted questions no mother should ever have to answer, and in the middle of this chaos walked Detective Angela Brooks. Angela was new to the homicide division, one of the youngest detectives on the force, a black woman in a department where her presence drew stares and whispers. At 29, she was sharp, disciplined, and quietly determined. She wore her badge clipped neatly to her belt and carried herself with calm authority, but inside, she knew every eye was waiting for her to stumble. The case was supposed to go to Detective Hayes, a grizzled veteran who had been in the department for decades. Hayes was the type who carried himself like he owned every crime scene, leaning on his years of experience like a shield against change. When he saw Angela walking up the Harris driveway, his lips curled into a half-smirk. "You sure you're ready for something like this, Brooks?" he muttered, loud enough for officers nearby to hear. "This ain't textbook work. This is real police work." Angela didn't answer. She didn't have to. She walked past him straight into the Harris living room. There, she sat quietly across from Monica's mother, letting the grieving woman speak, letting the silence sit heavy when words failed. That was Angela's strength. She listened. Through broken sobs, Monica's mother said the words that would anchor Angela through the case. "Please, don't let them forget about her. Don't let them treat my baby like she don't matter." Angela nodded, her jaw tightening. "I promise you," she said softly. "I won't." Outside, rain washed over the street as the crime scene unit packed up evidence. Angela studied the photographs: Monica's body, the overturned chair, the shoe prints near the back door. Everyone else was ready to move on, ready to check boxes, write reports, and call it a night. But Angela saw something different. Those muddy prints weren't random. They were deliberate. They told a story nobody else seemed interested in reading. Hayes leaned against his car, lighting a cigarette. "We'll chalk this up to a gang beef. Wrong place, wrong time. Open and shut." Angela looked back at him, steady. "Monica wasn't in a gang. That theory doesn't fit." Hayes smirked, blowing smoke into the night. "You'll learn, rookie. Around here, it's always the same story." But Angela knew he was wrong. She could feel it. This wasn't random. Someone had targeted Monica. Someone who thought no one would look too closely. Someone who thought Monica's life and Angela's instincts didn't matter. What Hayes dismissed as meaningless mud, Angela saw as a trail that could speak louder than any suspect's alibi. And as Monica's mother's words echoed in her head, Angela made herself a silent vow. She would follow those footprints wherever they led, no matter how many people told her to stop. Because someone thought they could erase Monica Harris. But Angela Brooks was going to prove them wrong. The next morning, the precinct was buzzing. Homicide cases always carried a certain electricity. Detectives comparing theories, officers swapping rumors, reporters circling like vultures outside the station. But when Angela walked in with the Harris file tucked under her arm, The energy shifted. She could feel the eyes on her, some curious, some doubtful, a few openly dismissive. It wasn't just because she was new, it was because she was her, a young black woman in a department where the unspoken rule was that rookies stayed quiet, especially rookies who looked like her. Detective Hayes was already at his desk, feet propped up, typing half-hearted notes into his report. He barely looked up. "Morning, Brooks," he muttered. "Hope you didn't lose sleep over it. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to make sense of every little detail. Stick with the obvious." Angela ignored the jab. She opened the folder, laying out the photos. Monica's body, the broken kitchen chair, the muddy shoe prints leading to the back door. Something about those prints nagged at her. The left heel was worn down more than the right. Whoever made them favored one leg, putting more pressure on one side. That wasn't random. That was specific. She grabbed her notepad. "Crime scene techs take plaster casts of these?" Hayes finally glanced up, chuckling. "You really think Muddy Boots are going to crack this case? Brooks, listen. Girl got caught up with the wrong crowd. It happens. Our job is to write it clean and move on. No need to reinvent the wheel." Angela's jaw clenched. She wanted to fire back, but she knew Hayes was waiting for that. Instead, she took a deep breath and said, "If it was random, why was nothing stolen? Why were her textbooks scattered, like she was still studying before someone came in? That's not a robbery. That's someone she knew." Hayes shook his head, leaning back. "Rookie mistake. You're trying to find meaning in chaos. Sometimes bad things just happen." Angela didn't argue, not with him, but inside she knew better. Later that afternoon, Angela drove to Monica's neighborhood. She didn't walk in flashing her badge or barking orders. She went door to door, speaking to neighbors, introducing herself as Detective Brooks, with a calm voice that put people at ease. Most said they hadn't seen much. The rain that night kept folks indoors. But one neighbor, an elderly woman named Mrs. Carter, paused when Angela showed her a picture of Monica. "She was a sweet girl," Mrs. Carter said, voice trembling. "Used to help me carry groceries, but—" She hesitated. Angela leaned in gently. "But what, ma'am?" Mrs. Carter lowered her voice as if the walls themselves might be listening. "There was a man, tall white man, always hanging around her car, wore work boots, looked angry like he didn't belong here." Angela's pen froze over her notepad. Work boots. "Did you ever see him talk to Monica?" she asked. "Once. They were arguing. She told him to leave her alone." Angela thanked her, sliding the notepad back into her pocket. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't random. Someone had been watching Monica, following her, trying to control her. And someone with worn work boots had walked right into her kitchen the night she died. Back at the precinct, Angela began searching records. Monica's classmates, her workplace, even her volunteer shifts at the clinic. That's when she found him. Ethan Cole. Ethan was a 35-year-old maintenance worker who lived a few blocks away. He had a history of short-temp jobs, a couple of restraining orders filed by ex-girlfriends, nothing that had ever stuck in court. On paper, he looked like another anonymous face in the system. But Angela had a gut feeling. The shoe prints weren't just mud. They were a signature, and they matched the kind of heavy boots Ethan wore on construction sites. Angela printed the file and walked it over to Hayes's desk. "We should bring him in for questioning. He had a history with Monica. Neighbors saw him lurking around her car." Hayes barely glanced at the paper. "Cole? Please, he's a nobody. Why waste time chasing a dead end when we've got 100 better leads?" Angela's patience cracked. "Better leads? Hayes, this man had restraining orders. He was seen with Monica. His boots match the prints. This isn't a dead end." Hayes stood, suddenly looming over her. "You think you're the only one who knows how to work a case? I've been doing this since before you even thought about joining the academy. You don't get to come in here with your little theories and waste department resources." The room went silent. A couple of other detectives looked away, pretending not to hear. Angela's chest burned with humiliation, but she refused to back down. "Respectfully, sir," she said, steadying her voice. "I'm not wasting resources. I'm following evidence." Hayes sneered. "You're chasing shadows because you want to prove something. Don't let your ego get a girl killed twice." The words cut deeper than he realized. Angela didn't argue again. She picked up her folder and walked out, her face calm, but her resolve burning hotter than ever. Hayes could mock her. The department could doubt her. But Angela had promised Monica's mother she wouldn't let her daughter be forgotten. And she wasn't about to break that promise. Somewhere out there, Ethan Cole thought he had gotten away with murder. He thought no one would care enough to look closely. But Angela Brooks was watching, and she was about to follow those muddy prints straight to his door. The following week, Angela worked quietly, gathering threads the way her grandmother used to braid hair, one by one until the whole picture started to take shape. Ethan Cole's name kept rising to the surface like oil in water.
She discovered that Ethan had been suspended from his last maintenance job for aggressive behavior toward female staff. He lived alone in a rundown apartment 2 miles from Monica's campus. A landlord report mentioned constant noise complaints, shouting and heavy boots stomping at all hours. Still, Hayes refused to entertain her theory. "Brooks," he sighed one evening, "you're fixated. We got nothing solid on Cole. No fingerprints, no murder weapon, no motive we can prove. You think the DA's gonna touch this? Forget it." Angela didn't forget. She couldn't. She remembered Monica's mother, Mrs. Harris, clutching her hand at the wake. "Don't let them brush her aside. Promise me that." So when Hayes dismissed her, Angela kept her own counsel. She started visiting the crime scene after hours, standing in the kitchen where Monica took her last breath. She replayed the struggle in her mind, eyes on the shoeprint still marked in evidence photos. Left heel worn down, heavy stride. Same direction, in and out, Angela whispered to herself. He came back here. He was comfortable here. And as if fate wanted to prove her right, that's exactly what Ethan did. It was late on a Thursday night when Angela parked her unmarked car 2 houses down from Monica's old duplex. Something in her gut had told her to swing by. Intuition sharpened from nights of staring at those photos. She kept her lights off, watching the house through her rear-view mirror. The neighborhood was silent, except for a dog barking 2 blocks away. Then, just past midnight, a figure approached. Tall, broad shoulders, work boots crunching on the gravel. Angela's heart thudded. She sank lower in her seat. It was Ethan Cole. He didn't just pass by. He walked right up the driveway, bold as daylight, and slipped around the side of the house. Angela could barely breathe. She crept out of her car, keeping to the shadows, her eyes trained on him. Through the back window, she saw him inside, moving slowly, almost reverently, like a hunter returning to the scene of the kill. He ran his hand across the kitchen counter, where Monica had fought for her life. He crouched near the spot where the chair had broken, and then, unbelievably, he adjusted his boot against the dried mud stain on the floor, as if checking his own mark. Angela's mind raced. Why would a killer return? Guilt? Arrogance? Or because he thought no one would ever suspect him? Whatever his reason, Ethan Cole had just told on himself. The next morning, Angela burst into the precinct with her notes. Hayes was pouring his 3rd cup of coffee, looking as disinterested as always. "You're not going to believe this," Angela said. "Cole went back to the Harris house last night. I saw him. He touched everything. He lined his boot up with the old print." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "And you arrested him?" Angela clenched her teeth. "Not without a warrant. Not without probable cause that'll hold up in court." Hayes smirked. "Then you've got nothing. Brooks, you need to stop following your hunches. You're wasting your time." But Angela knew better. Ethan's return wasn't nothing. It was a crack in his armor. It was the behavior of a man who thought he was invisible, untouchable. And men like that always slipped. She decided to push harder. Angela tracked Ethan down at his job site, a construction zone off Highway 14. She didn't storm in like Hayes would have. She waited until his shift ended, then approached calmly as he was wiping mud off his boots. "Ethan Cole?" she asked, flashing her badge. He froze, then forced a crooked grin. "Detective, what's this about?" Angela held his gaze, steady as stone. "Monica Harris. I'd like to ask you a few questions." His jaw twitched. "Don't know her." "That's strange," Angela said softly, "because neighbors saw you near her car. More than once. They also saw you arguing." Ethan's smile faltered. "People see what they want to see. I don't have to talk to you." "You don't," Angela replied, slipping a photo from her folder. It was a blown-up image of the Shoeprint. "But here's the thing. Whoever killed Monica left behind something they couldn't take back. A mark, a print. You wear work boots, don't you, Ethan?" For a split second, his face betrayed him. Shock, then anger, then the mask came back down. "This is harassment," he snapped, shoving past her. "You've got nothing." Angela didn't stop him. She didn't need to. She'd seen enough killers to recognize that look. The one that said, "They're on to me." That night, Angela sat at her desk long after the precinct emptied out. She studied Ethan's file, the evidence, the photos. Hayes' voice echoed in her head, dismissing her at every turn. But she wasn't about to let Hayes or Ethan dictate the outcome of this case. She remembered something her training officer once told her. Criminals are creatures of habit. They always circle back because they think they can't be touched. If Ethan came back once, he would come back again. Angela made a decision. She called in a favor from the crime lab, requesting an undercover camera set up at the Harris house. Hidden lenses, silent triggers, all tied to a live feed. If Ethan returned, she'd have him. Not just suspicion, not just shoe prints, but video proof of him standing in the very place Monica died. And if Hayes didn't like it, too bad. Because Angela wasn't working for Hayes. She was working for justice. Angela sat in her car across the street that weekend, eyes glued to the live feed on her tablet. Hours passed. Then, just after 2 a.m., the screen lit up, the back door creaked open. Ethan Cole stepped inside again, boots echoing against a linoleum floor. He walked the same path, touched the same counter, crouched at the same spot. This time, he even whispered something under his breath. The microphone picked it up. "Nobody's ever gonna know." Angela's hands tightened on the steering wheel. But he was wrong. He was about to learn that everything he thought made him untouchable was exactly what would bring him down. This is where Ethan's arrogance finally betrays him. Angela gains the upper hand, and the suspense starts to break toward justice. Angela had been patient for weeks, letting Hayes dismiss her, letting Ethan swagger around as though the world bent to his will. But now she had something that couldn't be ignored. On her tablet screen, the camera feed replayed Ethan Cole stepping into Monica Harris's kitchen like he owned it. His boots scuffed the floor in the exact spot where the crime scene text had taken the original Shoeprint photo. He crouched down, whispering that chilling phrase, "Nobody's ever gonna know." Angela knew then that Hayes was finished stonewalling her. The city could keep turning its head, but the truth was captured in black and white. The next morning, Angela walked into the precinct with her chin high and her evidence folder in hand. Hayes was already there, sipping coffee like a king holding court. When he saw her, his smirk returned. "Brooks," he said, "don't tell me you've been chasing Cole again." Angela didn't answer. Instead, she slid her tablet across his desk and hit play. The feed showed Ethan stepping inside the Harris house. The audio caught his voice clear as day. Hayes leaned forward, his smirk vanishing. "What the hell is this?" "Probable cause," Angela replied. "Direct evidence. You can't sweep this under the rug anymore." "Hayes?" He went back to the scene. He admitted nobody would know. "Except now we know." For a moment, Hayes said nothing. His jaw flexed. Angela could see the pride draining from him, replaced with the grudging realization that he had been wrong. And worse, that the rookie he dismissed had just handed him the case's golden key. Hayes cleared his throat. "All right, get a warrant. Pick him up. But this is still my case, Brooks." Angela didn't even flinch. "No, Captain, this isn't your case. This is Monica's case." and I'm not stepping aside this time. For the first time since she joined the precinct, Hayes didn't have a comeback. It took less than 12 hours for the judge to approve the warrant. The video evidence spoke louder than any testimony Angela could have offered. Ethan Cole had implicated himself by his own arrogance. When the arrest team assembled, Hayes tried to take command, barking orders like the general he believed himself to be. But every officer's eyes kept sliding back to Angela. They knew the truth. She had cracked this case wide open, not Hayes. Angela rode with the team, her heart pounding as they approached the construction site where Ethan worked. The machinery thundered in the background as officers surrounded him. "Ethan Cole," Hayes shouted, "you're under arrest for the murder of Monica Harris." Ethan spun around, sweat on his brow. "What? No, you can't." But Angela stepped forward, holding up the still frame of him in Monica's kitchen. "We got you on tape, at the scene, with your own words. You returned because you thought nobody would ever catch you. But justice has a way of catching up." The workers stopped what they were doing, watching in stunned silence as Ethan's hands were cuffed behind his back. His massive confidence